What's going on, everyone, and welcome into Plaisance Podcast, filled to the brim with glitchy analysis and freezing cold takes so cold that they're boiling hot. In today's episode, I am going to be talking about what the Minnesota Timberwolves missed out on at the trade deadline. Now, they did go get Ayo Dosunmu from the Chicago Bulls. I love that move personally. However, I do think there is a key hole on this roster that will prevent the Timberwolves from competing at an NBA Finals level, and that, of course, is the lack of a point guard. We saw a couple players get moved on in the trade deadline, Coby White from the Bulls, as well as Lonzo Ball, who I think would have been a more than suitable player to stick into this Timberwolves starting lineup, not even, to stick in the lineup, have him come off the bench and facilitate while Anthony Edwards is not on the floor. That all being said, let's talk about where this Timberwolves team stands. And quite frankly, they are a middle of the pack Western Conference team. They are not looking to compete at an NBA Finals level right now. Anthony Edwards is quite frankly having one of the best seasons of his career, especially when you consider his scoring numbers. They're off the chart this season. He is having a career high year in points per game. Shooting percentages are pretty much the same as they've been over the last couple of years. He's shooting the hell out of the basketball. That's kind of what you expect from Ant these days. But I do think it comes at the detriment of this Timberwolves team when it comes to playoff time. Now, pump the brakes. I think Anthony Edwards is a top 5 player in the league. That's not a debate for me. I think he's probably the second, arguably the best scorer in the NBA right now. But that comes at a cost, and I'm going to talk about that and the reason why the Timberwolves should have grabbed a point guard. So for starters, looking at what makes a good team, a finals contending team, you have to have at bare minimum, capable facilitator, if not an elite one. Let's take a trip down memory lane and talk about some of the finals teams from the past few seasons. OKC, we got SGA. He's not a quote-unquote elite facilitator, but does a more than serviceable job. He's in the top 10% in the NBA in assist-to-turnover ratio last season in the postseason. So that is a major compliment to the OKC game. Yes, he's a heavy ISO guy, but he can still pass the rock and make the right basketball decision at any given point during a game. Next up, look at their opponent, the Indiana Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton is a top 5 passer in the league. That is a must when it comes to finals contention. Look at all the years past. You have the Nuggets. They won a championship a couple years ago. You have Jokic, of course. You see Boston and Dallas. Jason Tatum is a serviceable facilitator. Dallas, of course, has Luka, top 5 passer in the game. The Boston Celtics and Stephen Curry and the Golden State Warriors squared off a few years ago. Curry and Draymond Green, both great facilitators. The offense runs around them, yes, but they also know where to put their teammates in spots to succeed. That, in my opinion, is a hole in Anthony Edwards' game right now, and one that, quite frankly, cannot be fixed during the regular season, needs to be addressed in the offseason, and statistically, I'll talk about why in just a second. But, of course, going back into the 2010s and early in the 2020s, LeBron James, Kyle Lowry with the Raptors, LeBron James again with the Cavs, and Curry and Green with the Warriors. Facilitation is what makes a great basketball team a finals contending one. And that is the thing that I think the Timberwolves really lack right now. Now, statistically speaking, I think I'm completely justified in this argument. Let me pull up some statistics for you and talk about where the T-Wolves rank. As of this recording, they are 18th in the league in assist percentage, 16th in assist to turnover ratio, 23rd in the pick and roll, 25th in cuts, and they run the 6th most isolations. Anthony Edwards specifically is the 3rd highest ISO player in the league. Julius Randle is in that conversation as well. He runs the 24th most isolations in the NBA. They're 9th in post-ups. This is a very heavy ISO team. It's either Anthony Edwards at the top of the key or on the wing, or Julius Randle on the blocker in the high post. They're 25th in cuts. This team is extremely stagnant. They do not move off the ball. They simply want to stand still and have Anthony Edwards size somebody up, try to get a bucket. Now, once again, Anthony Edwards is a bucket. He can get to the basket at almost any given point during the game. The problem is, where do the Timberwolves go when either A, he can't get a bucket, or B, he has to be on the bench? Because at some point in a game, Anthony Edwards needs rest. If he doesn't get that rest, he's not that good of a scorer down the stretch, as is anyone, except for maybe LeBron James. That's it. So the Timberwolves need a point guard, because you have to be able to semi-effectively run off-ball cuts, off-ball screens, pick and rolls, and you need a commander to do that. Now, Mike Conley, 5 to 6 years ago, could absolutely be that guy. I'm not talking about going out and trading for a Luka or, let me think, like a Trae Young. You don't need that. You need a Drew Holiday, a Draymond Green. It doesn't even have to be a point guard. It just has to be somebody who knows how to run a set offense. And right now, the Timberwolves don't have that. Now, that all being said, this is a playoff team. They do succeed with Anthony Edwards as the primary ball handler and scorer. They have over 40 wins on the season. But looking at their losses, or maybe they have 30-something wins. Either way, they have 19 to 20 losses. Only 4 of those losses have come when the Timberwolves out-assisted their opponent. The rest of their losses, 80+% of them, have come with opponents out-assisting the Timberwolves. Now, that's not to say, but that's a simple stat. That doesn't have anything to do with the margins of victory. In my opinion, if you looked at it on a game-by-game basis, sure, that doesn't have a lot to do with, why one team beat the other one. But what we see now, what I'm identifying here, guys, is a pattern. This is a group of games that are paired together simply because you can see that the Timberwolves are being constantly out-assisted in the losses that they have. That being said, it explains why they are also 12-13 against teams over 500. So when they play a winning basketball team, they lose the majority of their games. We will see that translate to the postseason. I can almost guarantee it. You do not see teams that are near or under 500 succeed at a high level in the playoff, barring context of like an injury. So, all this being said, the Timberwolves, in my opinion, really missed the bag here. I thought if you pick up Lonzo, that's really all you need. You don't need a very expensive point guard. You just got to have somebody who can take the ball from Anthony Edwards at some points in the game and run a more traditional offense. Now, I want to talk about where Anthony Edwards can grow. Obviously, the theme of today's episode is facilitation. He's got to get better at passing the basketball. There are 52 players in the NBA right now that average a 25% or higher usage rate. 2 key statistics here to show you that Anthony Edwards is not ready for prime time when it comes to facilitating the basketball. He is 47th out of 52. So in the bottom 10% of this group when it comes to assist ratio, and he's 40th out of 52 when it comes to assist to turnover ratio. This just screams to me that not only does Ant not pass the ball because he's an elite scorer, but secondarily, he does not pass the ball at a point that it's becoming almost detrimental to the holistic offense of the Timberwolves. Now, once again, they win games, a lot of them. Chris Finch might just want this as the stepping stone for Ant in the coming seasons, but in my opinion, the opportunity to win a finals is now. Trying to continue to develop during the regular season rather than pushing this roster to the absolute brink of success doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think you have to trade for a guy, even Colin Sexton, who I wouldn't describe as a traditional facilitating point guard, could have helped this team. Now, Ayo Dosunmu, of course, fills that gap for Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but even with Nah, you did not see the Timberwolves use him as a major facilitator. That's not what he's actually done in Atlanta either. So The T-Wolves are missing a point guard. I think a lot of the reason why they didn't trade for one at the trade deadline was just because their finances are just so deeply tied to this core three of Ant, Julius Randle, and Rudy Gobert. Specifically, the Gobert contract is probably one of the most regrettable ones in the league. If you ask the T-Wolves front office to redo this trade, I think they'd snap their fingers in a heartbeat and pull a Thanos on everybody and just make them disappear. But that is not the case. The current state of the T-Wolves is exactly what I've laid out to you. They can win basketball games, especially against losing teams. But when it comes to playing the elite, the best of the best, they struggle on a consistency level. That is the major problem with the Wolves right now. They should have gone and gotten a point guard. I will revisit this after the postseason is over for the Wolves, and we'll see if this exact prediction came true. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this, hit the like button. Of course, leave a comment, even if you didn't like it. And absolutely hit that subscribe button. I love making these videos and talking ball. This is, a deep dive into some analytics as well as roster construction. One of my favorite things to do in all of sports. So thank you again for watching. Be tuned for more, and we'll see you next time.